Hello, today I'm going to be talking about shooting in low light with your GoPro Hero 3 Plus Black Edition camera.
Adorama TV presents Capture the Action with Martin Dorey.
Hello, I'm Martin Dorey and you are watching Adorama TV. We are back in the studio again today because we're going to be talking about shooting in low light with your GoPro Hero 3 Plus Black Edition camera. Now, because your GoPro does so much for you, it sorts out your exposure automatically, your white balance automatically, you might not think that there's very much you can do when it comes to shooting in low light, but there is. And I'm going to explain a couple of things that are going to really help to enhance your low light shooting. The GoPro is a pretty smart bit of kit. Every time you switch it on, it's working hard to work out what the ideal exposure is for that shot. It takes an average reading of the whole picture. Now, this is fine while you've got plenty of light, but as soon as the light levels start to drop, the camera's going to do a couple of things. Firstly, it's a fixed aperture lens at 2.8, so it can't open up any to compensate for low light. So it's going to either have to compensate by altering the shutter or the ISO. When your camera automatically adjusts the ISO to compensate for lower light, it digitally enhances the picture to make it brighter. It's a bit like making the sensor more sensitive to light. Now this is fine. The only problem with pushing the ISO is that the higher the ISO, the more noise you have on your picture. Now when your ISO on this camera is pushed to the limit, it can really ruin your shots. So there's always going to be a compromise between low light and noise. If you want to shoot in low light, you're going to get more noise. However, there is something you can do, and that is to adjust the frame rate. Now, the frame rate obviously will affect the amount of light that's getting to the sensor. If you shoot at 30 frames a second, there's going to be more light getting to the sensor every time the shutter goes than there will be if you shoot at 60 frames a second, right? Naturally, so if you worry about low light, keep your frame rate down. Or you could allow the GoPro to do its thing in auto low light mode. Now, this is GoPro's way of compensating for low light situations. Basically, what it does is it adjusts the frame rate to allow for more light. If you're shooting at, say, 60 frames a second, it will adjust the frame rate automatically and dynamically down to 30 frames per second. It won't actually adjust the frame rate itself, it will just expose twice to allow more light to get to the sensor. So what you'll find when you look back at it, when you're editing, is that you will have 60 frames a second, but you will have 2 frames that are duplicated. It will shoot 2 frames for every one. It's just a bit of in-camera trickery, really. And I would say, if you are worried about shooting in low light, drop the frame rate. You could always turn off the auto low light mode and shoot at a lower frame rate if you were worried about the effect it's going to have on your slow-mo, for example, but your camera will still want to compensate, and that would mean pushing your ISO, which will mean more noise. So we really are back to where we started. However, you can always set the limit of the ISO in Pro Tune mode. Now, there'll be a compromise here between having darker images and less noise. You can set the ISO to either 1600 or 400. So the lower the ISO, the lower the grain. Now personally, I would rather have darker images with real blacks and white highlights than I would lots and lots of grain. So again, it's your call, but at least you can control it. It's a bit like using the exposure function in Pro Tune mode to lighten or darken your images, although once you've set your ISO, your exposure in Pro Tune will not make any difference to your images. Finally, I want to tell you about spot meter function on your GoPro. This will give you the ability to take an exposure reading from a spot in the center of your image. It means that it won't take an average reading. Now this is going to be really useful if you are inside a car, for example, a dark space, and you're looking out and you want the exposure to be right for the outside, perhaps looking through a doorway or something like that. You can see how, with spot metering, you can have more control over the exposure on the brightest and most important parts of your image. You can see how that would be really useful. And I hope that this has been really useful and will help you get more out of your GoPro. And that's it for now. Thanks for joining me on Adorama TV today. Don't forget to subscribe to the Adorama TV channel for more great videos. And also, don't forget to go to the Learning Centre for more great tips and tricks. And please like, share, or comment on this video. And if there's anything you want to know, just get in touch. That's it for now.
Do you want great looking prints at low cost? Be sure to visit our easy-to-use online printing service. Adorama Pix has professionals who treat your images with the utmost care that you can count on. For a quick turnaround on photos, cards, or albums, use adoramapix.com.